A Cortland man has been charged with capital murder in the death of Jessica Chambers.
At the press conference today, investigators revealed that this wall was filled with the names and photos of people believed to have been responsible for the death of Jessica Chambers.
We do feel like at this point that he acted alone in this case, and that we do not at this point.
At 8:07 p.m. on December 6, 2014, LaTroy Rudd and Glenn Williams contacted the Panola County Sheriff's Office to alert them about a vehicle ablaze near the side of Heron Road in Cortland, Mississippi. 2 minutes later, at 8:09 p.m., firefighters and emergency medical services promptly reached the scene.
On December the 6th of 2014, you responded to a car fire.
Yes, sir. When I arrived, I pulled on up to where the car was on fire, and
What did you see?
I saw Jessica standing in the road.
What was this person wearing?
When I seen her, she had nothing on but her pants. I got out and I got a blanket, and she had her arms out, was coming towards me, saying, "Help me, help me, help me."
Nicole, I want you to describe for this jury, what did she look like? What was the condition of Jessica Chambers?
Her hair was fried out like she had stuck it in a light socket. And she had black all over her face. Her body was severely burned. I wrapped a blanket around her to conceal her. She reached out for my hand. I held on to her hand. And her mouth, inside her mouth was just charred black. And when I asked her name, she said Jessica Chambers. And she was not recognizable to me. I know what Jessica Chambers looked like. Knowing this is Cortland, I said, this is Jessica Chambers, not Chambers.
In all your years of being a firefighter, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, sir, and I hope I never see anything like it again.
Cole, let me ask you one final question. As of today, are you currently on the Cortland Fire Department?
Sir, I'm not.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. I would ask that he be finally excused.
During his testimony, the individual you just heard, Cole Haley, was identified as one of the firefighters who responded to the call on the evening of December 6th. Upon their arrival at the scene, they encountered a distressing sight: a burnt woman, often described as resembling a zombie, walking away from her blazing car. Despite her ability to walk and attempt to speak, her perilous condition was evident. She was severely burned from head to toe, blinded by the fire, and struggled with labored breathing. As these first responders diligently worked to provide life-saving aid, they inquired about her assailant. Despite her debilitating injuries, she managed to convey, as they believed, that it was Eric. 19-year-old Jessica Chambers was then airlifted to the Memphis Hospital burn unit for emergency medical treatment. Unfortunately, medical examinations revealed that over 93% of her body had sustained burns, leading doctors to conclude that life-saving efforts would be in vain. Tragically, on December 7th at 2:36 a.m., Jessica Chambers took her last breath while holding her mother's hand. Following this, a special investigations task force was swiftly assembled, initiating a 48-hour hunt for the killer. While some team members focused on gathering and examining evidence, others engaged in conversations with individuals named Eric or Derek, known to be in the area on the night of December 6th. Surprisingly, everyone with the name Eric or Derek was swiftly cleared, providing alibis that were easily corroborated. Additionally, they allowed investigators to scrutinize their location history using cell phone data. Despite initial suspicion, a man named Derek Turner, who frequented the same social circle as Jessica, was arrested and questioned. At this early stage of the investigation, the police had not yet disclosed to the public that Jessica had identified her attacker at the scene.
What did they tell you? They were investigating the death of Jessica Chambers?
Yes, ma'am.
I tracked down this man, 31-year-old Derek Turner, just hours after he was released from jail Wednesday where he was questioned about Jessica Chambers.
I was just called in to, for an interview about a situation I didn't know nothing about.
Turner said he knew Chambers.
But I don't just know her like that because I'm way older than her. So I seen her around at the stores and everything, but I don't just know her like that.
What Turner did know.
The times that I was around her, she carried herself. She was a good girl. She was a sweet girl. So that's why I'm messed up about it. Whatever happened to her, I hate it happen,
Turner, taken into custody Monday, still has no idea what led investigators to him.
They didn't tell me what reason why they had me, who said what or what. So, I don't know how my name even came up in it.
After days behind bars,
They didn't have nothing, to hold me for, so they had to let me go.
In the small town of Cortland, where the population hovers around 500 people, investigators tirelessly worked around the clock. The challenging task involved eliminating potential suspects, considering the significant loss of evidence in the fire. With only a handful of leads to pursue in their quest to find the killer, and the name Eric yielding no fruitful results, investigators decided to make a public plea for assistance.
There's not a lot of street talk out there about who may or may not have done this, so it's making our job a little bit more difficult, and that's why we're appealing to the public. I know that Crime Stoppers does have a reward for this. So anybody with information, we're asking the police come forward. The Cortland community is a small community, so we feel like somebody out there knows something or has heard something that just has not come forward yet. And we're asking the community to help us with this.
The shocking and dramatic nature of the case propelled it into the viral spotlight, garnering coverage on various news stations and even securing a spot on the front page of People magazine. In an effort to gather more information, Jessica's sister created a Facebook page titled Justice for Jessica, amassing over 150,000 followers within the first 24 hours. As is common in online discussion groups, the rumor mill went into overdrive. Some speculated it wasn't a murder, but rather a mechanical car fire. Others pointed fingers at Jessica's father, Ben, citing his opposition to interracial relationships, despite Jessica's own involvement in several. There were even suggestions of a drug or gang-related assassination. A group even worked together to implicate some of Jessica's ex-boyfriends, sending them harmful or threatening messages. However, all these rumors were debunked. The investigation revealed that the fire had originated from the driver's seat, with gasoline as an accelerant. Ben, Jessica's father, who worked as a mechanic for the local police, had a confirmed alibi. Any suspicions of gang or drug involvement were disproven, as Jessica had distanced herself from such situations in the years leading up to her death. The online scrutiny of two ex-boyfriends proved fruitless, as they had already been interviewed and eliminated as suspects. Over the first month after Jessica's death, investigators questioned over 100 individuals, establishing a solid timeline of Jessica's day. They scrutinized key pieces of evidence at the crime scene, finding Jessica's car and clothing covered in gasoline. Her keys were discovered about a quarter-mile down the road, thrown into the trees. At 4:15 p.m., just 4 hours before EMS arrived, Jessica spoke to her mother in a peculiarly quiet phone call, and text messages with Quentin Tellis, a man she had been in contact with, were examined. Surveillance footage from the only gas station convenience store in Cortland became a focal point for investigators. The surveillance footage, recorded at 5:24 p.m., just over 2 hours before the fire, initially seemed inconclusive in terms of potential suspects. However, upon closer examination of the individuals seen in the recording, investigators singled out one man for further inquiry: George Mister, also known as Boone. Boone had a criminal history involving aggravated assault, violence towards women, and drug trafficking. Notably, he had been released from prison less than a year before the date of the fire. The police took action and apprehended Boone at the same gas station where the surveillance footage was captured. The arrest was executed at gunpoint, surrounding Boone to ensure a secure apprehension.
George Mister and Rachel Tudor say they're the latest to be questioned in Jessica Chambers' murder.
I took a lie detector test. I took a swab test.
Investigators wouldn't confirm the pair was questioned, but a jail log shows Mister's name on the date in question. Tudor isn't listed, but I did see her in the jail parking lot.
They questioned me about a text message that I sent Jessica 2 days before she died. And I guess that was why they may have thought something. I don't know.
These two say they both know Jessica. How'd you know Jessica?
She's a good friend. Yeah.
But tell me they have no idea how she was set on fire and found near her burning car in Cortland.
It's saying that
It was
a
a lover's quarrel.
lover's quarrel. You know, a lover's quarrel. That's they questioning about.
District Attorney John Champion estimates around 100 people have been questioned.
I knew Jessica pretty well, and we hung out, and we had our differences, ups and downs, but, you know, none of us would really ever imagine doing something like that to her.
We don't know. You know, don't know what the problem was that got her killed.
When questioned by authorities, Boone initially provided an alibi. However, he also presented new information to the investigators. Boone claimed to have seen Jessica around 11 a.m. on December 6th. According to his account, Jessica was a drug addict who frequented Boone and his friends, seeking companionship and care due to issues with her father, whom he described as mean and racist. Boone stated that on that morning, Jessica visited him with crystal meth, asking to trade it for cocaine. He asserted that he declined her request, watched her leave, and didn't hear from her again. As the investigators had limited evidence against Boone, he was released from custody. In the following months, the reward for information increased incrementally. Unfortunately, progress stalled until another discovery was made in the gas station footage. The revelation was Jessica's vehicle pulling into a driveway across the street from the store, belonging to Quentin Tellis, despite having been spoken to and ruled out. This finding contradicted a statement Quentin had made during previous conversations. In response, investigators obtained a warrant to review Quentin's cell phone location history. The analysis revealed that Quentin's cell phone was pinging off the exact same towers as Jessica's leading up to and during the burning. Subsequently, Jessica's keys were tested for Quentin's DNA, which returned positive. About 14 months after Jessica's death, Quentin Tellis was charged with capital murder.
A Cortland man has been charged with capital murder in the death of Jessica Chambers.
As we reported, Chambers was found burned alive in the rural Mississippi town in December of 2014. Until now, there had been no suspects named. WJTV's Terrence Friday spent the day in Panola County where the announcement was made.
At the press conference today, investigators revealed that this wall was filled with the names and photos of people believed to have been responsible for the death of Jessica Chambers. After more than a year, they narrowed it down to Quentin Tellis. Tellis was arrested in August of 2015 after he used a stolen credit card that belonged to a Chinese exchange student that was killed in Louisiana. Now he's been named the primary suspect in the death of Jessica Chambers as well. A lot of the details that a lot of people want to know are being withheld until that information is presented to the jury. We now know at this point that the suspect is believed to have acted alone, and investigators say they're confident that he's the right person.
We do not anticipate at this point there being any other charges against any other individuals. We do feel like at this point that he acted alone in this case, and that we do not at this point. I'm never going to be 100% about anything. You never know in this world, but I'm fairly, very, very confident that we will not have any other charges against any other suspect.
As highlighted in the news segment, Quentin had relocated to a neighboring county, where he eventually faced charges for using a debit card belonging to a foreign exchange student named Mandy. Tragically, Mandy had been found dead in her apartment on August 8, 2015. Witnesses reported seeing Quentin and Mandy talking on the stairs outside in the weeks leading up to her death, and cell phone data placed Quentin within 200 feet of Mandy's apartment the night before her discovery. Despite the absence of DNA or physical evidence linking Quentin to Mandy's murder, homicide charges had not been filed. However, Quentin was already incarcerated due to charges related to the unauthorized use of a murder victim's debit card. This circumstance meant that Quentin was behind bars when law enforcement closed in on him. During the months between November and February, Quentin underwent 3 separate interviews, with the first occurring on November 2nd, 2015.
How far did you go to school? 8th and 9th grade. What year did you go to jail? I think I went to jail in 2007. What's the initial charge? Murder.
Let's talk about your relationship with Jessica. How'd y'all meet?
We met at the store right there across from my mom's house. It was really like just a change numbers. And then, like, on the next day, we started talking.
How often did y'all see each other?
I see it like all the time.
Now, were y'all in a physical relationship too?
Meaning
you and her have sex?
Yeah, we had sex.
Okay. Was you guys pretty often?
One time.
How soon was that after y'all met?
I don't even think it was 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later. And where did that occur?
It was in her car.
Her car. You had a little bitty car.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't with her that night.
Really?
I was.
Being honest with you about that? You promised to God on that? You promised on your mama's right hand to your mama's right?
Right hand on my mom. I wasn't with her that night.
Think back, did you see anybody else? Did you talk to anybody on the phone?
I probably can't remember if I talked to you the other morning. I want to say I did. No, I don't want to lie to you.
All right, so she departs, she leaves, M&M. You call her or text her soon after that?
I can't remember. Probably I did talk to her, but I can't remember. She asked you for money to get her something to eat.
So you just went over there and gave her some money?
Okay.
Did you get in the car with her?
Jessica,
you ride with her at all that night?
Did she come back by your house?
Did you see her anymore that night after it got dark?
No, sir.
In Quentin's initial interview on November 2nd, 2015, he remained composed and unfazed by the questioning. He seemingly responded honestly to straightforward inquiries about how and where he had met Jessica, but adamantly denied spending any time with her that evening. However, during the second interview, investigators confronted Quentin with some of the evidence they had gathered against him. This time, Quentin's narrative began to shift.
Now, just for reference, December 6th, 5 o'clock, when it's dark outside, okay? It's 5:24, okay? 5:24, she pulls up to the station. All right? This is 5:29. You see her phone up there? And guess who she's calling right now? Yeah. She's calling you. And you can argue that all you want, but I'm telling you, from that point on, that evening, y'all's phones are going to be together. Okay? For the next long time, your phone and her phone are in the exact same location. Where's your phone? I promise. And what you were right there with Jessica. It was the same night, because I remember now. I better come out. I'm going to make sure I get it right. It was that night. I did meet her in that parking lot, right there by Taco Bell. She got $10 and a quarter stack of weed from me.
You working out those keys or that keychain?
Those are keys to her car. Your DNA is on those keys.
Well,
No. I mean, I'm telling you the God's truth. That's the honest truth. Your DNA is on the keys.
well, why?
That's what we're telling you. That's why we're being honest with you about everything and following the
I
evidence.
mean, I done drove a car before, but
How long before she died you think you drove that car?
a long time ago, I called that day we went to the liquor store.
Was that the week she died, or how long before she died?
Okay. Listen to me, buddy. You made a mistake. But when a man mans up and says, I'm messed up and I am sorry. Because you can have one or two things. A man can have mercy or a man can have justice. And it's time to tell the truth. The evidence that we've amassed during the course of this case, I feel extremely good about. And the decisions that you make from here on forward have the potential to affect the rest of your life.
I have no reason to lie to you. That's the God honest truth. I told the truth.
You'd rather go to court. You'd rather go to court than the jury decide.
I told the truth. It ain't even on my heart to kill nobody.
When they try you for killing Jessica Chambers, the death penalty is going to be on the table.
You can kill Jessica.
I'm just telling you how it is, Quentin.
Despite Quentin's insistence on innocence, the evidence itself painted a compelling narrative of guilt. It wasn't until the conclusion of his third interview that investigators officially filed capital murder charges against Quentin. Before taking further legal action, they granted him a moment to speak with his mother.
They showed me all this stuff we did. Just wouldn't do that, Quentin. That's what I do.
I'm telling you, I can do it.
He said, I'm charging you.
I can do it. I drove a car to the liquor store one time. That's it. That was me killing him, no.
Following the filing of capital murder charges, Quentin Tellis was handcuffed and escorted back to his cell, where he awaited the unfolding of his court proceedings. His trial commenced in October of 2017, and during the proceedings, Tellis pleaded not guilty.
My name is John Champion, and I'm the district attorney for Panola County, where we are now, DeSoto County, Tate County, Yallowbush County, and Tallahatchie County, just everything up and down, basically down I-55. This is the part of the trial that we call opening statements, which is where I intend over the next little while to lay out for you what this case is going to be about and what we expect the evidence to show in this case. I want to start by telling you that on December the 6th of 2014, Jessica Chambers was a beautiful, blonde-haired 19-year-old. About 2 weeks prior to December the 6th of 2014, Jessica met a man that would eventually end her life. She met a man that would change the course of her family, that would change the course of the rest of the life of her family and her friends and everyone that knew her. And that man is Quentin Tellis.
During the trial, District Attorney John Champion asserted to the jury that Quentin Tellis, and only Quentin, was responsible for Jessica's murder. He claimed that their friendship was relatively recent, but Quentin quickly escalated their relationship to an overwhelmingly sexual nature, as evidenced by numerous text conversations where Jessica consistently rejected his advances. The prosecution contended that on the night of the murder, Quentin assaulted Jessica in her vehicle, potentially causing her to lose consciousness. In a panic, Quentin, fearing he might have accidentally killed her, decided to burn her body and the vehicle to dispose of the evidence. This resulted in Jessica waking up on fire, experiencing the horrifying final moments described by Cole Haley at the beginning of this video. In response, the defense delivered their opening statement, focusing their entire case on 3 crucial words. It was Eric.
The evidence will show that this indeed was a horrible crime. A terrible thing that happened to Jessica Chambers that day. Looks like it's right at about 3 years ago, December. And what happened was that Miss Chambers actually came walking down Heron Road, where everything occurred that day. She was alert. she was able to speak. And what happened is that she encountered one of the first volunteer firefighters who was dispatched that day. There were at least 8 responders who spoke to her. And the evidence will show that Jessica Chambers repeatedly talked to 8 different people, if not more. They asked what her name was. Jessica, she said. They asked, who did this to you? And what she did was she told them who did this to her. Many of the first responders completed reports. And what they put in their reports, you'll find that it's in quotes, where she said, Eric set me on fire. In quotations. She didn't say any other name. She didn't mention any other person. What she said was that Eric did this to me. His name is Quentin Tellis. She did not say that day. This case is full of reasonable doubt. And the point is that Ms. Chambers did not say Quentin set her on fire. She just did not say that. And we cannot ignore that. And for this reason, we will ask that you find Quentin Tellis not guilty as a result. Thank you.
The defense faced a somewhat bleak and rather predictable challenge. Would their strategy be effective with the jury? The prosecution presented several points as evidence of Quentin's guilt, including video footage and cell phone data linking him to Jessica throughout the day and evening of her murder. Quentin's DNA was found on Jessica's keys, located a quarter mile from the crime scene. Messages between Quentin and Jessica illustrated his constant sexual interest, countered by Jessica's consistent rejection. Video footage showed Quentin changing his clothes 3 times, twice after the murder. In response, the defense argued that all evidence linking Quentin to the crime at the time of the fire was circumstantial. The gas station footage occurred hours before the fire, and the reliability of cell phone data was questioned, given that Quentin's sister lived about a mile away, potentially affecting accuracy. The defense contended that Quentin's DNA on the keys resulted from him driving Jessica to the liquor store within the week prior. They dismissed the sexual messages as playful, asserting there were no negative encounters to alter their perception. Regarding the clothing changes, the defense argued they were motivated by normal factors like insecurity or dirt. Throughout the trial, witnesses and experts testified, but the most critical testimonies came from medical examiners. They claimed Jessica's mental state and internal injuries would have made it nearly impossible for her to speak coherently.
Can you describe this picture for the jury and what you're seeing?
This is your larynx that's usually a tube. So it goes down through our throat into our lungs and then starts to branch out left and right. And what you're seeing from your cords down is the soot that is in here that would have been the carbon products that she was breathing in during the fire, which would mean to me it's in an enclosed space.
Would that be consistent with a car, vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Could these chemicals that you breathe in affect Ms. Chambers' mindset at all?
Oh, you know, sure. I mean, carboxyhemoglobin itself builds up the carbon monoxide. And if you're in that type of environment for too long, the levels go up and then it affects your own mentation.
Would it be typical for a person with this degree of burns and this percentage of burns to go through shock?
Those that can live go through several phases of that psychological reaction. Number one is, will I live? Will I live with all my body parts? Will I live being able to function? Things along those lines. But from this standpoint, initially, it's, I'm gonna die.
Given the injury to her lips and her mouth, is it likely that she would have severe difficulties in her speech?
Without a doubt.
Would you agree that, for the most part, her condition would have worsened from when she was initially found to when she got to the burn center?
To a certain extent, yes, ma'am.
There were at least 10 to 12 other individuals who were speaking to her, that would indicate that she could speak, correct?
She could probably speak, but not enunciate well.
And so you cannot say with 100% certainty that statements that she made were not made.
I wasn't there.
Yes, sir. I attended the witness.
The focal point of the defense's argument revolved around whether Jessica was able to speak clearly, a point that remained debatable. Even Cole Haley, who arrived at the scene early, noted that Jessica mispronounced her own name. Despite the prosecution's reliance on circumstantial evidence, the case was anticipated to be a clear victory for the district attorney. Following the reading of closing arguments at the end of a 6-day trial, the jury entered deliberation before ultimately returning with their verdict.
I have been informed that the jury has reached a verdict in this case. Is that correct? Did you all select a foreman? All right, sir. Let's see. Mr. Lampkin, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. I don't need to know what your verdict was, but I just need to know that all 12 jurors agree on that verdict.
Yes, sir, we did.
All right. Would you hand the verdict, please, to the court, to the clerk? Excuse me.
We all didn't agree on it.
Sir?
You said we all agreed on that verdict. We didn't.
All 12. The verdict has to be unanimous. So all 12 did not agree on the verdict? Is that what you're telling me, sir?
Yeah, I didn't agree he was right.
All right. I'd ask you to step back into the jury room, please. Pass the verdict, please, to the clerk that you have in your hand.
In the jury room, the anticipation hung thick as they passed the verdict to the clerk. However, after about an hour of deliberation, they informed the court that they were deadlocked. This led to a mistrial due to a hung jury. A retrial occurred in September of 2018, and once again, it ended in a mistrial.
Tried twice for the murder of Jessica Chambers, but both trials ended in a hung jury. And that was, and has, many wondering if Quentin Tellis will be tried for a third time. Local 24 News reporter Tish Clark live in the studio now with new information from the district attorney on this very case. Tish.
Hi, Katina. Well, Quentin Tellis will go back to Monroe, Louisiana sometime this week. He'll face murder charges down there for killing a college exchange student in July 2015. Investigators say the student was tortured before she was stabbed nearly 30 times in her apartment. Tellis denies killing the student. However, he pleaded guilty to using her debit card and was sentenced to 10 years as a habitual offender. Tellis was then extradited here to Mississippi to face murder charges in the Jessica Chambers case. As for the Chambers case, District Attorney John Champion says he might take Tellis to trial a third time, but he wants to let emotions simmer down a little bit in Panola County, and he wants to talk to the Chambers family before making any decisions.
On Wednesday, November 2, 2022, officials announced that Quentin Tellis would not face trial for the August 2015 murder of the foreign exchange student named Mandy. As of February 3, 2024, there has been no set date for a third trial regarding the murder of Jessica Chambers. Quentin Tellis continues to remain behind bars, serving his 10-year sentence for using the debit card of a murder victim.